Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Betterment Podcast, the pursuit of infinite growth. So, it's been a while since I've done one of these, and probably wondering too, where the hell is my living room? I'm in my house, I'm in my room, because the podcast equipment, the laptop isn't working. So, we pivot, right? Infinite growth, we're always learning how to think outside the box. So, we're gonna do this podcast in my room. First things first, where have I been the last 5 or 6 weeks, right? The reason why I wanted to do this podcast is there's been a lot of change in my life recently, which is why I haven't been able to post, every Monday. In fact, it's been quite a few Mondays, so that's on me, but that's going to change. All right, we're going to get back into it. I'm really just going to dive into a couple things that I've learned in the last 5 to 6 weeks. I've had some really life-changing experiences, life-changing circumstances, and hopefully some of the takeaways that I give you guys today can inspire, or you guys can get some sort of information to implement in your own life and help you get where you're trying to go. So with that being said, let's get into it, baby. First things first, I left solar. For anyone that doesn't know, I did leave solar, right? Comes as some news to some people, maybe people like my girlfriend, not as much of a surprise. What I want to say is this to start off, because there's a lot to catch up you guys on. There's a lot of people that I got to have, the opportunity to work with. Very, very lucky to have worked with Christian and Luca, who taught me everything I know up until that point of leaving Chico. Max Duran was a massive influence. Got to give a shout out to my boy Jack Fisher and John Espinoza. I know they're killing it up there at Home Solar, so shout out to them. And here at Sunrun, huge thank you to my boy Uncle G, Grant Shaw. I almost called him Grant Cardone. Pete Riveros, Cesar Chavez. Both companies are great, by the way. Have nothing but respect for both of them. The reason why I left, let's just get into the tea, get a little cup of tea, is I wasn't fulfilled. To me, in my life right now, fulfillment is the most important thing, right? Pride is a close second, but I need to feel like what I'm doing is actually making a difference in people's lives around me, in my own life, and that I'm getting better. Now, the reason why I left Sunrun, and it wasn't something that I did lightly, I thought about it for many months before I decided to exit. This also wasn't the first time I thought about leaving solar. I thought about it when I was back at home, right? And I want to make this very fucking clear. I did not leave or think about leaving because of the companies, or because of the people I worked with, or because of the product, or because of my own sales abilities. I was tired of knocking doors. And I felt there's got to be a more efficient way to be successful in sales. And more than that, I also felt like a lot of the time I wasn't believing what I was saying. What I mean by that, not saying I don't believe in solar, I think it's a phenomenal product. I had become so burnt out, I didn't really feel that passion and drive when I would talk to customers about solar. And I was still selling, we're going to get all into that. But I just felt like even the things I was saying were just robotic. There was no purpose or meaning behind them. I was just kind of going through the motions, as you would say. And both Ohm Solar Solutions and Sunrun are phenomenal companies. Anyone that's watching this that works for either of those companies or has the opportunity and wants to get into solar, I highly recommend both of them. They both were very instrumental in who I became today. The knowledge I was able to obtain, the leadership skills, the people I was able to help, and more importantly, the people I was able to learn from. Forever thankful. When I decided I wanted to leave I came to a really low point, and I'm going to explain this. August of this year, 2024, I had the best month of solar in my career. For numbers, this may be great to some, for others it may be another day. I'm not here to compare. I'm just here to tell my story, so take it as you want. I closed 13 deals and in the month of August, and 11 caps, which are, for people that don't know, it's essentially the final yes. 13 contracts signed, and then final yes, which is the cap before it goes into permitting. Did 11 of those, all in the same month. At the end of the month, I felt really burnt out. I felt less fulfilled. I felt less purposeful, and I just felt like, man, that was the best month I've had in 2.5 years of doing solar, and I actually feel more burnt out than in less drive than I thought I would. And so I thought, I got to do this again in September. And it came to that point where I realized, if this is how I'm thinking right now and I'm doing well, those months that I'm struggling, I'm only going to think a lot worse. Now, before I continue, there's a lot that I learned from that experience that was good, but I'm just telling you where my head was at that time, right? This podcast for me is all about being vulnerable and transparent. If you can do that with people, you will make a lot of friends. More importantly, you'll discover yourself a lot more than most people in the world, and you'll understand people better. So that's what I'm here to do. So when I went ahead and I decided to leave, it was probably one of the craziest things I've ever done, because at the same time, I was going to get a promotion. I was going to get put into a position where I was able to help other people close deals. So I'd be closing deals for new reps and people that were trying to just get things through the pipeline. There was one or two people I was training myself, and who knows, maybe was able to have an opportunity to start my own little pod or team down the road. And me and Grant, who's my mentor now, who's my boss then, were really, really solid. And so there might be people that ask, well, why'd you walk away from that? You just had the best month of your life. You were going to get a promotion. You had some sort of leadership and authority. And more importantly, a gateway to success, and you walked away. Here's why I did that. There was an itch that needed to be scratched for Nick. Everybody's different. Willpower is great. Trying new things is great. Being creative is great. I had been going through the motions and just grinding it out for such a long time that where I was at in my life, I felt I need to try something else. There's got to be something else out there. So what I did was I had a really good talk with Grant. It's one of the best talks I've had up to date. We talked for about 4 hours, and we went and got dinner. And the things that I learned in that conversation were where I'm trying to go and who I'm trying to become might be two different things. I'm so focused on the output, and I'm not focused on what Nick needs to do on a day-to-day basis to find fulfillment. And so I started looking for jobs, started applying places. I also was pretty embarrassed because I didn't want anyone to think I quit. I had especially people back that knew me when I started. Christian, Max, John, Jack. I recruited Jack and John to come work at them, and they're still crushing it. So there was a level of me of like, man, I'm giving up. I'm ending the race prematurely. And anyone that knows me knows I'm crazy competitive. And it took a lot of humility to ultimately decide, who cares what people think? I got to fucking know what else is out there. And when I took that leap, it wasn't easy. It was actually pretty scary. But there was a part of me that knew. There's a great, great, great quote from Winston Churchill, which is called The Man in the Arena. And essentially what it talks about is the people that try will always have a level of clarity, because they will never have to worry about those worried and timid souls that neither went to the arena or that never went to the arena, right? And the reason why that is because they'll never know. They never talked to the girl. They never quit the job. They never moved to the new city. And so when I thought about that, and I still think about that, I know I made the right choice in my own life. So with that being said, I started looking for jobs, and I got a job in corporate America down, and I'm not going to name the company because it's not important, and I'm not here to cast any sort of shade on anybody, but I'm just going to tell you about my experience. What I was also looking for was stability. Come from a job that is commission only. For those of you that don't know, that means if you don't sell, you don't eat. Full transparency, I'm good at selling. I know what to do. However, to be honest, my budgeting skills were not the best, right? You get a nice commission check. I spend most of it. I don't save enough. Shit, I might not get another commission check for a couple more weeks, right? So I was like, let's look for some more stability, right? Let's get a salary job, maybe even a 9-to-5, which is so funny because I used to shit on people that did that. I can say right now, 26 years old, there's nothing wrong with a salary job. I wanted salary plus commission because anyone that knows me or a salesperson in general, you want to make sure that you have the ability to make more money than just what's being provided with the salary, which is what I got. I had a salary plus commission job in corporate America. A complete 180 from knocking doors where you have your own schedule. There is no benefits. There is no salary. There's no set time to come in and come out besides meetings. It's very, very, very like freelance. which is great because if done correctly, it teaches you a lot about self-discipline. If done incorrectly, you'll never make it in that sort of industry anyway. So there's a lot of good that came out of it. However, like I said, I wanted stability, I wanted structure. Those are one of the areas of fulfillment I was looking for. I wanted a time to come in and a time to leave. So I got what I was looking for. I found this corporate job and it was here in San Diego, and I worked there. And I still remember thinking to myself, wow, this is crazy. Just 2 years ago, I would have smacked myself for doing this. Here I am doing it now. But the reason why I bring that up is that me 2 years ago didn't understand the value of what I was about to learn in this corporate job that I was at. So I get to this corporate job, and the reason why I took it was a startup. I was promised things such as referrals and working with referrals and a sales team and training and all this money, and that's great and that's awesome. However, after a very short period of time, things did not turn out that way. There wasn't really much training, though the people there, they did the best that they could. The referrals and the things I was supposed to work with never really came, and it ended up being a cold calling job, which I let them know in the interview, hey, this company seems great, but if I cold call, I don't want this job because I've been cold calling for 3 years. I want a different sort of sales. I want a sales job where there's a referral or there's some sort of warm leads. I'm tired of cold calling people all day. When I had gotten there, it was definitely a learning curve, right? There's a lot more stress when you don't sell and you're one of 16 people at a company versus one of 4,000, right? And there's also a lot more hard work, a lot more iterations. Some of the best things I learned when I was there was the amount of iterations that you have to do on a daily, sometimes hourly basis in order to survive to the next day. And so the amount of grit and tenacity I saw while working there with the people I worked with was very, very inspiring. It was humbling. It made me want to work harder, working 10 or 11 hour days at this company. And I felt passionate about what we were doing because I felt like the purpose did align with me. However, what I didn't realize at the time was I was drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit as far as understanding, well, the job that I got hired for and the job I was doing were literally opposites. There was no referrals. There was no trainings. One of the only things that was consistent was the salary pay. Everything else was up for daily changes, daily iterations. And so what I learned is if and when I start my own business, and business owners that watch this will definitely be able to relate, you have to work those long hours. You have to learn to iterate, and you have to just shovel shit. Like you have to do what it needs to be done in order for things to get finished and accomplished. And after about 5 or 6 weeks, the job really started to wear on me. And if anyone that knows me, I've only had, I think, 5 jobs in my life. I've been working for over 10 years. So, and some of those jobs, the only reason why I left is because I moved away. Like when I was at Chili's and then went to Poorhouse and then Ohm, and then I moved to San Diego, so I went to Sunrun. So a lot of them were circumstantial reasons for leaving. What I had come to realize during that time was that the job that I was promised and the things that I was looking forward to doing, this job didn't really offer very many of those. And it's funny because it took me months to decide to quit solar. I had so much pride. My ego was such a big driving factor. I can't quit. I can't let people beat me. I can't let people think I'm weak. But it's crazy enough. It only took me 5 weeks to say I'm quitting this other job. That is by far the fastest amount of time I quit. And the reason why I have no shame saying that, and I can look at this camera dead in the face, because I don't need to get into the nitty gritty details. There's a lot of great people that still work there. But what I had experienced was, let's just leave it at this, was absolutely nothing like what I was told about. And there's a difference between being resilient and just being like, okay, if this is the job that I knew I'd signed up for, I wouldn't have taken the job. So you have to have enough self-respect to make the hard decisions and to put the ego aside in order to ultimately do what you find and what you feel is best for you in your life. The difference between quitting and making a pivot is that quitters just walk away completely. They say, hey, I'm done in this industry. I'm done doing sales. I'm done with X, Y, and Z. I never want to do anything like that again. Someone that pivots, someone that sees that this opportunity isn't working out or this job isn't what you signed up for, and you get back on the horse and you go the very next day and look for more jobs, or you go the very next day and you make the call, or the very next day you go into the industry, just maybe a competitor. The reason why I say that is because it took me a very, very long time to understand that there is a massive difference between pivoting and quitting. The amount of people that don't quit and that are doing jobs that they fucking hate and work with the same people, and they absolutely despise the people they work with, what they do, where they work, how much they get paid. Yeah, they're not quitters, but if they would have pivoted 5 years ago, they would have saved themselves 5 years of potential new opportunity with a new company, more money, a better family environment, because people don't understand this. Some don't, some do. Probably people listening to this podcast will. Your work has a massive impact on everything else that you do in life. And so if you're not finding fulfillment, doesn't mean you need to be happy, but if you don't find fulfillment and purpose in what you're doing with your work, that's going to trickle into your relationship, family, kids, fitness, spirituality, God, whatever you believe in. And so I had the wherewithal to say, hey, this is not for me, I'm walking away. I wish them the best of luck. There's a lot of great people that are still there. However, there were a lot of red flags that I said, hey, it's too many red flags for me. I'm going to figure it out. And what had happened was last night, so this was on Wednesday that I left this company of corporate America. Let me actually add one more thing here about this. There were some positives that came from it, because there was a couple. As I spoke about earlier, people worked really hard. I learned about a completely new type of sales. The sales that I worked with was more investing in real estate related. So I got to get my feet wet in an opportunity with an industry that I had never even had any sort of exposure to in the past. I learned a lot about acquiring properties and investing and talking to investors and what's the difference between this kind of investor and that kind of investor. So that was exciting. And I absolutely thank the company for the time they gave me. I got what I needed out of that job, and now I'm back on the horse. So I called Grant, and Grant's me have been trying to talk for a couple weeks now. Been playing a little phone tag, and I was able to go to his house last night. This was on Wednesday I don't know when this video is going to come out, hopefully tomorrow. But this was on Wednesday that I decided to walk away. Today's Friday, last night was Thursday. I went over to talk to Grant. And we had this really long talk. I explained to him in much more detail the situation of what had happened. And he gave me some really good advice. And I just want to go ahead and stop here for a quick sec and say, if you have a mentor that you look up to or that you speak with on a frequent basis, one, never take them for granted, but two, use them. Use them to help you. Use them for accessibility. Use them to reach out to them. Now, just so we're clear, I'm not saying use them in a negative sense, right? I mean, use them like as a gateway. Ask them for help. Be resourceful. They're there to help you. They want to help you. If they're your real mentor, they want to help you. And so I've noticed and I realized that I also wasn't reaching out to Grant as much as I probably should have during that time. And we sat and we spoke and we had a really good talk. And a couple of the takeaways that came from it were, one, there are leaders and there are followers in this world. And not everybody is only a follower and not everybody is only a leader. He said a really good quote that resonated with me, and it probably will for a long time, which is, leaders create, followers consume. If you're a leader, you're creating, right? You're constantly coming up with new ideas, how to lead the team, how to get them to the next step, how to bring everybody else up, how to scale. If you're a follower, you're a lot of consuming. You're learning, but you're there to more take. You're taking information, you're taking some sort of pay, you're taking some sort of payment or benefit, right? Now, I want to make this very clear. There's nothing wrong with being a follower. In fact, all great leaders were once followers themselves. Grant talked about that. He's got people in his life that he still follows. And I also want to go in and let everyone know that just because you're a leader in one area, you could be a leader at your job, but a follower in your family, right? Or vice versa. That's more the case. There's a lot of employees. There's really only a couple people at the top in any sort of business, but you could be a leader in your household. You could be a leader in your relationship. You can be a leader in your sports group, right? Becoming aware of where you're a leader and where a follower is really important, because you're able to understand your role. I think a lot of times we as individuals, as humans, we don't understand our role, right? Do I have a group that's behind me? Or we don't also understand our influence. Why are you keep showing up to the same meetings and you're not figuring it out? Why do you keep talking to that girl that's not good for you, or that guy for that matter, right? The quicker you can understand where you're at, and everybody's either one or two, leader or follower. It just depends on the environment. The quicker you can understand what you need to get out of that position. If you're a follower, I'm following Grant, I followed Christian. There's a lot of people that I followed and still do follow. Understand that they are where you want to go. So follow them, consume, but then take that information, each one teach one. Then you be a leader in your friend group and say, hey, I learned X, Y, and Z from my boss who's doing really well in this area. I applied it, I'm doing good. You guys should apply it too. And the feedback loop gets faster and faster, more and more people, and then your network, right, is your net worth. That was one of the big points. The other one was you are who you're surrounded by, which is funny because I did talk about that on my last episode, I think. You are who you're surrounded by. I realized in that moment, I was surrounded by some great people, but he went a step further. He talked about a very, I would say, a very good friend in our group, and his father, who's very successful. And he explained to me, speaking with him, he understood that he had so much more to learn. He has so much further to go. But he also felt that this individual really resonated with the kind of man that Grant wants to be in 10 years from now. And Grant's already very established. And so I thought about that, and it actually got me really fired up because I realized a couple things in that moment. And one was that I'm not verbally expressing enough about the things that I'm interested in. I'm really, as of lately, with this new job especially, or what was, investing, multifamily real estate in general, debt, in different sorts of portfolios. That's just one aspect. The reason why I say that is the more you think about something and the more you talk about it, the more likely it is to come into fruition. So I started thinking about the people that I want to start talking more about when it comes to money, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to a relationship with God. And the more that you actually express those things, you can, one, get a better understanding from others and where they're at in this. And two, you'll understand what circles you need to be around in order to get more exposure to that passion, that drive, that mission that you're on, Now, I think many people are on many missions, so it's kind of hard to say which one that you're focused on. But the idea, at any given time, but the idea is to find groups of people that really resonate with that you can, level one, can speak with them on a consistent verbal basis, not just texting, but having an actual conversation, because the whole idea of a mastermind is when multiple people are in together and they have the same idea and they all want to talk about the same sort of things. That's what a real mastermind does. And so you're able to create that quicker by talking to more and more people about the things that you're interested in. And so the other thing that he told me about that I really did appreciate is he said, hey, look, leaders don't always love leading, right? They don't always love what they do. And what I mean by that, what he meant by that is, I have seen Grant go through some hard times personally as his friend, but I see where he's at now. I see where the team's at now, and I see the success that's come from my friends that work with him and are in the same circle. And they came out of that valley, right? There was definitely a valley. They're definitely back up to the peak. But 6 months ago, if you knew what he was going through, you wouldn't have been stoked about it either. And the reality is, if you're a leader, it doesn't matter, right? The leader gets up and does the things that need to be done so that the followers can be put in a better situation. And so we're all leaders in our life is the whole essence of this. We're all leaders in our life. And as I said before, we're all followers too in different areas of our life. What I would recommend from what I've just experienced in talking with Grant is figure out where you are at in each sort of dynamic, whether it's your relationship, it's your fitness circle, it's your business, it's your coworkers, it's your church group, it's your club team, and understand your role there. Because the clearer we can define a role, the faster we can help others and we can help ourselves get where we're ultimately trying to go and get what we need to get the most juice out of life. Trying to get that juicy juice. This is just water though. Take it easy. And so it was a great conversation. I'm very grateful to have Grant in my life. Love you, buddy, if you watch this. Now, what are my next moves? What's Nick doing now? Because now I don't have a job with the prior corporate company. And so I did what I knew how to do best, which is sell some solar. So my first day outside of corporate America, I sold the solar account, baby. Let's get it. All jokes aside though, as of now, my thing is to figure out what my next move is. Now, what did I learn from my experiences over the last 5 or 6 weeks? Fulfillment is important, but you got to understand, and Grant talked about this, not negatives. You can't always focus on the negatives. Sometimes people magnify the negatives and they don't think about all the positives that could happen. But what is a job? And you can take the job and replace it with spouse, girlfriend, physique, bank account, look like that's going to give me what I'm looking for. Now that is a super loaded and vague question. So you have to really dissect that. But maybe if it's fitness, what you're talking about is looking at, going to the gym 4 days a week consistently. Maybe if it's your bank account, it's, hey, I'm consistently saving $1,000 a month, right? Whatever it is, but you got to start putting steps and putting pebbles in the bucket towards whatever area in your life that you're trying to get better at. And so my next move is this. I'm going to sit here and I'll be strategic about it. Anyone that knows me knows I'm a plotter. I am impulsive, but only once I've made that decision. I definitely make irrational decisions, right? I'm 26, I'm still figuring it out. But my birthday came about on Tuesday. I had some time to reflect on where I'm at in my life, the gratitude I have for my girlfriend, the gratitude I have for my family, the gratitude I have for my friends, my health. If you don't have your health, you don't have shit. So always remember to take care of your health. And I think that's when I really realized, because I quit the next day at my job. So first day being 26, I quit my job. Or second, I guess, at the corporate America job, that we only get one life, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. Perspective is everything. Perspective is everything. How I viewed corporate America. Sorry, one sec. My dog's up. Cooper! Got to keep my dog dialed in the middle of a podcast. It's getting a little crazy over there. Back to me. Cooper, being a good listener. But where what I've learned in the last 5 or 6 weeks is perspective. Perspective is really everything. How I view door knocking, cold calling, investing, working a 9 to 5, very, very, very different light than I did 6 weeks ago. And I said this to Grant last night. I think I said this to my girlfriend too, but I had to scratch that itch. I needed to leave to see what else was out there. Will I go back to solar? I don't know. Maybe, right? I closed a deal yesterday, so I'm still technically working there, but that's a whole different story. Will I go back to a corporate America job? Who knows? I'm going to decide that in the next couple weeks to come. But I had to scratch that itch. If you don't scratch that itch, if you don't try, you'll never know. And the fact that I tried and went for something, I have the most pride for myself. Because I know that I have the answers I was looking for. And those answers are, it's not as easy as I thought. It's a lot harder than you would imagine. You work a lot more hours. You become a lot more resilient. There's many iterations. And most of America does this. And here's the kicker. Even though they hate it and they're not fulfilled for years and years and years and years until they fucking die. That's not the life I'm living. It's not the life I want to live. You shouldn't either. If you find something that's meaningful and it's hard, good. That is where fulfillment comes. If you find something that's easy but not fulfilling, be careful. You might be complacent. If you find something that's hard and non-fulfilling, leave. Give yourself permission to fucking do something else, right? We're not slaves. You have the opportunity to have freedom and go for something else, right? The reality is, though, a lot of people are slaves to their mind, and they have self-limiting beliefs of where they can and can't go and why they can and can't do that and who they can and can't talk to. This gets me really fired up. And I'm still in the same boat. I'm still figuring this shit out. But I do feel like I've had a lot of self-awareness in the last couple months, especially the last month. If you only have one life, and perspective is everything, wouldn't it make the most amount of sense to go experience as many things as you possibly can so that you can have more perspective And with more perspective becomes more clarity on who you're trying to become. So these are just some things that I've been thinking about. A lot of changes. Left solar, left corporate America. What's next for Nick? I can tell you this much. I know that no matter what I do, I will figure it out. Because I have a lot of trust in myself. I have a lot of trust in God. And I have a great group of individuals that support me. If you're lucky or blessed enough to have that too, shit, that's all you need to go for it. So, banger! This is going to wrap up another episode of the Hilarious Society podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening, watching, tuning in. And whatever you guys are doing today, if this was some good feedback or there's things you want me to go into more depth on, or hey, you want to jump on this bad boy podcast because we going to the moon, let me know and we'll definitely make it happen. So to that I say cheers with some water. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And